Hi, and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Besties. I'm Kelly, and I'm here with Christy. We're in your go-to space that should feel like hanging out with your best girlfriends, where we'll hopefully get you more comfortable talking about all things girly, all things woo-woo, all things that you probably want to talk to your neighbor about or your friend next door about, and you just can't. And our topic for today is kind of this idea of queen bee syndrome or the opposite of being a girl's girl. Um, this is something that Christy and I were talking a lot about and how it's really tough when you're dealing with people, other women who aren't girls or who do exhibit traits of like this queen bee syndrome. So, I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about what queen bee syndrome is. I actually have a background, or my graduate degree is in organizational psychology. And queen bee syndrome is a phenomenon that we actually study in the workplace. And it's relevant in the workplace, but also outside the workplace in just normal everyday life. And it's this idea or this phenomenon where women who have reached a certain point in their life, so at work, that would be like a high status, but outside of work, it would just be, feeling like comfortable financially, socially, etc. When women have reached that and they've had to work really hard for it, particularly if it's in a male-dominated environment, they tend to then distance themselves from other women. And that can look like undermining them rather than supporting or mentoring them. It can include being overly critical of women who are more junior or less experienced or younger than you. It can even look like denying opportunities or reinforcing like different gender stereotypes. This was first looked at in like, I think it was like the 1970s, if I'm remembering correctly. And there was a study done where they were observing women who succeeded in male-dominated environments, and these different like distancing strategies were adopted. And like there's a whole host of reasons why this happens. And not every woman does this, but it's something that really causes, I think, female friendships to be tricky because if you've experienced this, I think you kind of have this like underlying trauma when you meet a new female of, oh, are they going to be a girl's girl or are they going to be competitive with me or are they going to be out to like kind of like sabotage me behind my back? So I just wanted to lay the foundation of what it is, but Christy, like tell me more about what your experience has been.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because I never thought about it in the workforce. I think probably because I have been a stay-at-home mom for so many years, so I'm not like in that environment where I'm like part of the corporate world. And I guess even before becoming a mom, I did school counseling. Um, and I just didn't really see that kind of competitiveness that you're talking about. To me, like on an energetic level, when I think about like somebody who's a girl's girl versus somebody who's like this queen bee mentality that you're kind of explaining, um, is a girl's girl to me feels very like expansive. Like she's very open. Her aura, her energetic field like is like, like radiating this kind of warmth and openness, whereas somebody who is portraying that kind of queen bee attitude, it feels very constricted,
Yeah.
very closed off. And what's interesting is that how you described it is kind of not how like in my mind I was thinking about it, because I guess I was thinking about like high school and like the girls who were kind of like those like super popular like queen bees. To me, I always felt like it was almost their shadow side that they were trying to like shove down. And instead of it being like fighting for, I guess, like your space in the world, it's kind of like socially, I guess, fighting for that space.
Yeah.
So, meaning that there's somebody who maybe feels actually really insecure, even though they're portraying themselves as this queen bee. Whereas the girl's girl kind of doesn't care about that. She's just being her authentic self and allowing that to attract people who align with that frequency.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's literally the exact same thing. So what you described is, I think, the same thing just playing out on a different stage. And I think it comes from this like tokenism and scarcity place, right?
Mm,
Like when women are tokens or a small minority, as that's what I'm trying to like convey here, they feel this pressure to maintain a unique status. And so what you just described, like I think of Mean Girls, right? Like
yeah.
that movie. They're
Hmm.
trying to maintain their status and they're coming from a scarcity mindset. Like
Yeah.
you said, they're not operating as their authentic selves. They're coming from the scarcity mindset where like there isn't enough for everyone. So they have to compete instead of like be that expansive human, like you said. Like when you have an abundance mindset and there's enough for everyone, like that's when you can operate in your authenticity and be that girl's girl.
Yeah, I love that idea of like the abundance mindset versus the scarcity. Um, I would love to hear like maybe some of your experiences dealing with this because I've been out, I feel like of like that kind of corporate world. Well, I've never really been in it, let's be honest. So I can't speak on that. I guess like as a mom, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are definitely times where I've come into contact with like other moms who feel very competitive, where it's like
Yeah.
they'll ask you about your kids, but really it's them like almost like sizing you up. And I just heard my friend, she is a speech and language pathologist and she's always sharing like little like tidbits of wisdom. And
Yes.
she said recently that when you come into contact with somebody who I guess could be described as a queen bee, so whether you're in the workforce, in like your office, or a mom on a playground trying to connect to other moms, is when she says something that has that underlining kind of snaky energy where you're like, I feel like you're saying that to kind of hurt me, instead of just either removing yourself and like disassociating or being combative and kind of fighting back with fire, you ask her, what did she say? I want to find the exact words because it was so good. And I was like, ooh, because it kind of puts her in the hot seat. You say, oh, like, help me understand what you mean by that. I don't really understand what you mean. Can you help me understand? And that way, it could be that maybe she has all these other feelings, or it was like there's something external that's contributing to the words that she's saying to you, or it's putting her in the hot seat and she's going to backpedal and realize that that was kind of mean and I'm not maybe being the nicest right now. And then you can go about your merry way. But I thought that was really like a nice little tip.
I love that so much. That
Hmm.
is a coaching question. So
Oh, really?
coached in that situation. Yeah, if you're asking that, like that is the beauty of coaching. Like you can use these skills wherever and whenever, and it's quite disarming, right? Instead of taking a situation and maybe escalating it, when you ask a question from a place of curiosity that's open-ended,
Mm-hmm.
and a tidbit on this is don't ask a why question because why can put people on the defensive. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
if you think really hard about it, you can always take a why question and reframe it so it starts with a what or a how. And if you ask for that, you're seeking more information out of a place of curiosity. Now, you do have to make sure that like your underlying tone doesn't isn't going in the opposite direction because people can sense that too. But what I love about that is like you do get people to pause and think. And that's what we call a powerful question.
Yeah, I liked that. I thought it was really great, especially because somebody like me who's an Enneagram 9 and I hate conflict. I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket. So anybody else who kind of has come into contact with queen bees, maybe just keep that little line in the back of your pocket. It's really interesting because you brought up the 1970s and like the workforce.
Yes.
And to me, it's like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, as women, like we should just band together.
Yes.
It's not really, it shouldn't be like woman against woman or fighting for like this spot in the world. It should be us coming together so that we form this powerful unity so that we are stronger and we're not having to compete with like the men in the workforce or just in life in general.
Yeah, what it really comes down to, at least in like the corporate world, is like the culture. And organizations' culture is what will either tolerate or not tolerate that behavior. And so I feel very lucky to currently work for an organization, a tech company that is more men than women. But in our space, we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. And so I think that's like step number one is address the culture, not just the individuals. Like if you work for an organization or you have a particular friend group, it's on
Mhm.
you and all of the people involved to make sure that like what you put up with is what you stand for. And so I think addressing that. I also think one of the elements we encourage in the workplace can be used outside of work just as much. And that's we encourage like mentorship and sponsorship. So like if you notice like let's say there's a new mom in the group and she's not quite sure how to connect with the others in your group, sometimes the easiest way to connect is to find something to complain about or something to get competitive about.
Mm.
And what you can simply do is just model what you want to see. And I know that seems like oversimplified, but like talk positive about the other females that are around when there's a new female coming into the group. Like never be caught talking negative. Like it can be really easy to slip into gossip, but instead be the person who gossips in a positive way. So if
Mhm.
you go out on a limb to make sure other people hear you saying nice things, you're going to then create more of that in the groups of people around you.
Oh, I love that tip so much. And like again, like energetically, those higher vibrations, which is like gratitude and joy, that is resonating at a higher vibration and you can actually shift and change other people's vibrations. So if you're around somebody who's kind of a negative Nancy, just try Kelly's tip of like gossiping in like the positive way and maybe talking about somebody who's doing really great or like some of your aspirations that you're hoping to gain or do. And just in you doing that, it's automatically you're going to raise her vibration too. She's going to match you or you're going to repel her and she's going to go away. So it's a way to shield yourself.
Exactly, exactly. I love that so much. And I think you can use it with your kids too. My daughter has encountered some girls at her age at the ripe old age of 10 and they're already competitive with one another,
Mhm.
and so we've tried that strategy. We'll have her go to a friend and be like, did you hear that so and so did this amazing thing? Isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
And it just takes the whole tone of the conversation on the playground in a different direction. So it's never too early to start doing this with your kids either.
Yeah, you're a model for not only those who are friends or people in the workplace, but also for your kids. I love that.
Well, if you want to learn more about Queen Bee syndrome, you can definitely do your own research. There's tons of it out there. But Christy and I hope that you recognize that we don't want to be queen bees. We want to do the opposite. We want to be girls, girls. And if you'd like to come on the episode, on a future episode and talk to us about your own experiences, we'd love to have you as a guest. So simply DM us or reach out via email, and we'd love to hear from you. Have a great one.